I moved to Willow Creek, a quaint town in upstate New York, in search of peace and quiet. The town had a charming old-world feel, with its cobblestone streets and historic homes. My new house was a Victorian-era mansion on the outskirts of town, surrounded by dense woods. It was perfect, or so I thought. From the moment I moved in, strange things started happening. At first, it was little things, doors creaking open, cold drafts that couldn't be explained. But then, the nightmares began. Every night I dreamt of a dark figure with piercing eyes watching me from the shadows. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. One evening, I decided to explore the woods behind my house. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the trees. As I walked deeper into the forest, I stumbled upon an old, overgrown path. It led to a small, decrepit cabin. Despite the eerie feeling gnawing at me, I approached the cabin and peered inside. The interior was dark and musty, filled with old furniture and broken artifacts. On a dusty table in the center of the room lay a book bound in leather, much like the one in my nightmares. Against my better judgment, I picked it up. The moment I touched it, I felt a surge of cold run through my body. I opened the book, and a chilling wind blew through the cabin. The pages were filled with strange symbols and drawings of demonic figures. Suddenly, the room grew darker, and the temperature dropped. I heard whispers, growing louder and more frantic. I tried to drop the book, but it felt as if it was glued to my hands. A deep, menacing voice echoed through the room. "You have awakened me," it said. I turned to see a shadowy figure materialize before me, its eyes glowing a fiery red. It was a Jinn, a demonic entity I had only read about in folklore. The Jinn's presence filled me with an overwhelming sense of dread. "You cannot escape," the Jinn hissed, its voice reverberating through the cabin. I felt an icy grip around my neck, choking the life out of me. Desperate, I remembered a prayer my grandmother had taught me. I muttered the words, and the Jinn recoiled, its grip loosening. Seizing the opportunity, I bolted out of the cabin and ran through the forest, not stopping until I reached my house. I locked the doors and windows, my heart racing. That night, the nightmares returned, more vivid and terrifying than ever. The next morning, I decided to research the history of my house and the surrounding woods. I discovered that the mansion had been built on cursed land, once inhabited by a cult that worshipped dark entities. The Jinn had been summoned by the cult and trapped in the forest for centuries. Terrified, I sought help from a local historian and spiritual guide, Mrs. Thompson. She explained that the only way to rid myself of the Jinn was to perform a cleansing ritual at the cabin. Armed with her guidance and a bundle of sage, I returned to the forest one final time. As I approached the cabin, the whispers began again, growing louder with each step. Inside, I lit the sage and recited the cleansing prayer Mrs. Thompson had taught me. The cabin filled with smoke, and the Jinn's figure appeared once more, thrashing and howling. With every word I spoke, the Jinn's presence weakened until, finally, it vanished, leaving behind an eerie silence. Exhausted but relieved, I left the cabin and never returned. Though the nightmares have ceased, the memory of the Jinn and the cursed forest lingers. Willow Creek may seem idyllic, but it harbors dark secrets. And now, I know better than to uncover them.